The Souvenir's it's a 40-foot, 12-ton bully, and bully you can imagine as a corruption of the word boiler. So it's a fishing boat, but it used to boil the fish on board. So it used to have like a fire down below and boil the shrimp or whatever else it was catching. So that's why it's a bully. I mean, it was kind of buried in the mud for the last kind of 7 or 8 years, and before that for about 10 years it was slowly rotting in a different place, but it was becoming a nuisance to other shipping, so it had to go to the marsh. And it became, on the marsh, it became a hotel for crabs, and it became a place for like migrating swifts from Africa. There's swift nests inside, so they used to come each year and take over it for a while, so it was their hotel as well. And all the lichen and everything else that's still on it, I mean, basically it was a complete habitat. Yeah, getting the Souvenir out of the mud comprised really of like going out there and just feeling desperation for the first while. So we kind of, the first thing to do was kind of make it safe enough that you weren't going to die when you walked on it, because it was so rotten. And then the second part was to take all of the mud out of the inside. There was about 2 foot of mud inside, so we basically shoveled all of that out. And then the next part was, it was leaking so badly it wasn't going to float, so we got over one side of it and we dug for about 18 inches in the marsh, probably removing tons and tons of mud, until we could lie underneath this big hulk. And that's pretty scary, lying in, you know, 6-8 inches of water, and then, you know, mud all around you with the crabs, and you've got 12 ton above you that you're not quite sure how stable it is, because the marsh is so unstable. And it's like, I'd never ever done anything physically that hard. Like, my mind wanted to go to that boat, but I could feel my body just did not want to return to the marsh to go digging under there another day. What we did was we ended up getting hold of a big kind of dirty water pump, 600 litres a minute, and pumping as much water under it as we could to dislodge some of the mud. But it's quite interesting because the eelgrass that grows under there doesn't let you take the mud away at all. So the only way to get rid of that is to cut it. So it was an interesting lesson in how the marsh protects itself from being washed away. And then eventually, after we'd kind of cut enough away, we was able to attach plastic to one side of the boat, and then on the other side we just put in a little bit of builder's foam, because that was waterlogged. So, and when a wooden boat's waterlogged, it means that the planks are quite tight. So that's how we dug it out. We'd been waiting for about 3 days for someone to come and take out the engine, because the engine's about 3/4 of a ton, and we thought if we get rid of the engine, we got more chance to float it. And we only had we had 2 tides on which it might possibly float, because the tides go up and down. The amount of water on a tide goes up and down. So we kind of went out there not really expecting to move it, but I kind of prepared as if we would. So I staked out a number of moorings that meant that we could pull if she floated. And we got in. I'd done the last kind of filling with a bit of builder's foam in some of the worst holes. And as the tide came in, we turned on the pump, and ever so gradually you saw the ladder moving millimetre by millimetre down the side of the boat. Like, absolutely kind of like just yeah, almost imperceptibly. And then when it was at that stage, suddenly after a while it just went and popped out of the mud and came kind of upright, because it was leaning over on its keel. And then I said to Fran, I think she's up. And we ran to the front of the boat, we got hold of the chains and the ropes that I'd put out, and we began to pull it. And when we began to pull it just with our weight, he said it's never going to move, you know, it's completely impossible. This is 12 tons, there's 2 people, you know, there's no way 2 people can pull 12 tons. But as we leant on it, she amazingly slowly kind of, the nose began to come round. And it's like this, the most exhilarating feeling. Yeah, you've got this thing, it's 12 tons, it's 40 foot long, it's stuck in the mud, it's not going anywhere. And through 3 weeks of hand digging, and then you pull on this chain, and this 12-ton thing moves. It's like, you know, the world doesn't work like that. I can't go and pull a double-decker bus with a bit of string. Anyway, so she began to kind of like come round. And then Fran jumped in the dory, which is another boat, and began to pull it, and it came round a bit more. And then Brum raced out in his motorboat and pulled the last of it off, and she was sinking. And I said to Brum, "Oh, you know, fuck it, let's just go for it." So he just pulled us, and we just aimed amazingly fast towards the shore before she sunk. And as she came into the shore, she just kind of like hit the beach, and that was it. It was like, all right, we're here.